Well, and one of the documents, of course, is what we'll show you just momentarily. This was what was presented also by NASA. This is the secret, of course, that particular document about Dumisha Otulivu, and this is now what the KDF is starkly denying. We have our panelists this morning to take us through this. We're discussing election and security this morning. And allow me this morning to also introduce our panelists. We have with us Professor Noah Midamba, who's the Vice Chancellor of KCA University, expert on defense and foreign policy. We have with us also the Chair of Independent Policing Oversight Authority, Mr. Macharia Njeru. Also, we do have with us Captain Collins Wanderi, Advocate of the High Court and also Security Analyst. We have Dr. Mustafa Yusuf Ali, who is a conflict resolution and a national security expert. Also, we do have with us Dr. Captain Simiyu Werunga, who is the Director General of African Securities and Strategic Studies, to take us through this and a raft of other issues as well. Let's begin with you, Captain Wanderi. Now we're seeing different statements coming from the Cabinet Secretary of the Ministry of Defense. Last Friday, we saw the spokesperson saying, of course, this particular document and a raft of other documents that we saw were genuine. Now he's speaking from both sides of the mouth. What do we believe?
First, Debarl, I have been looking for and I have not found anybody to show me anything on record that Colonel Owuoth confirmed the authenticity of those documents. I am still waiting for anybody to show me that on record, because there isn't. And I'm sorry to say this, the claims made against KDF are very unfortunate, reckless, and actually very depressing. And anybody who is familiar with service writing in the armed forces or in the defense forces, anybody who looks at these documents, not from the face of it, analyzing them carefully, will note that they are fake. They are actually forgeries in every material respect. I have looked at them. I am familiar with the service writing. Secondly, for the first time, I would also want to talk in this panel as a forensic auditor and a certified fraud examiner. And I can tell you that documents are unlike all witnesses. Documents don't lie. They don't forget. They cannot be persuaded. They cannot be confused. They speak for themselves. I want you to, you've shown the viewers that page one. Just the first page.
Yes. I can show it again.
Yes. Just show the first page.
Yes.
You see the first page, just at the top there, shows you Headquarters, Kenya Army. Just that.
Over here.
Headquarters,
yes. Kenya Army. Kenya Army.
Now, if you have the last page, which is page 11.
Well, I just seem to don't have the last page. This is the only page I have. Yes.
I had shared it with you by email.
Okay.
It shows Headquarters, the Kenya Army. These are two different documents. Headquarters, the Kenya Army. Now, that clearly tells you that these are different documents. If you look at the same page, page 1, referencing, it says Kenya Army stroke ops, stroke security, stroke something. The first document. The last document starts with ops. Now, in service writing, I can confirm to our viewers that there are no such flip-flops. Such mistakes are not excusable. Service writing is a subject on its own in the defense forces, which every officer attending a grade 3 or grade 2 course must pass. There are many other instances. I can go on and on, that these documents don't make sense. The referencing is different. There's mismatch in dates. There's mismatch. There's also problem in font, clearly showing that somebody was clearly making alterations or whatever. They may have gotten a genuine document, then made alterations to make it look genuine. But these documents, from my position, just from a simple examination, as somebody who is familiar with service writing, somebody who examines documents as a forensic auditor, these documents are fake and they're forgeries. And I've just shown 1 or 2 examples. I could show because I have like 10 examples. These documents are forgeries.
They're forgeries. All right, let's hear the reaction from Captain Werunga as well. You hold with the view that is being given by Captain Wanderi, that they are forgeries, they're fake. You were also in the military at one point.
You know, one thing we need to understand is that documents in the military are not necessarily printed. They're computer generated. So once in a while you'll find errors that are very grammatical. I don't understand, and I've gone through those documents, how Captain Wanderi can positively confirm that there are forgeries. The only people who can confirm to us is for KDF itself to come out, take us through these documents, and show us how they are. Number two, I think there was a very clear acknowledgement, and I think I read it somewhere, where the spokesperson actually confirmed what people were saying. I was trying to pick it somewhere, I can't get it. Whether that one was also a forgery, it is KDF to tell us. Number four, if you look at the way the minister was speaking with Owuoth, I don't know where this thing is in court, I don't know which court, but conveniently, Owuoth may have used the court process not to speak on this document, to leave it to the cabinet secretary. In normal circumstances, Owuoth, these are operational documents. They are not civil documents. Now, Department of Defense is divided into two. We have those operational aspects of KDF where the leadership of the Kenya Defense Forces speak for themselves, and we have the civil component where the cabinet secretary speaks for the department or the Ministry of Defense. Now, something like this is operational. And that is why, to me, and I'm not saying they are not forgeries, I'm not competent to say that. That's why initially the first person to speak about them was the uniformed personnel. Then you remember the minister spoke about them in Kisumu, and I think we were here then, we said, no, we expect her to speak from her office, which is DOD. Yes. That's what she did yesterday. So I think it is beyond us to really, and with due respect to Wanderi, to come here and try and tell Kenyans that these are forgeries, yet we cannot competently tell Kenyans that we are competent fraud investigators, document investigators. I will expect, if it is true these documents are not genuine, Department of Defense to speak to the Kenyan people from the uniformed side of the Department of Defense and tell us these are operational documents, and in most cases, I can tell you, Debarl, they don't even get to the cabinet secretary. The cabinet secretary is in charge of policy that just informed what needs to be done. Right. So I cannot refuse what he's saying, neither can I say they are genuine, but I think we can only listen from the uniformed side of Department of Defense to rebuke this and take us through this. Right. You can see clearly Owuoth is trying to avoid the issue to leave it to the cabinet secretary. And that, to me, speaks volumes about how things are being done.
So, from your own estimation, do you think maybe also the cabinet secretary or the entire ministry really prevailed upon the colonel to actually, speak from both sides of the mouth?
Let me tell you what I know. And I'll tell you a few things that I used to do that at my rank people never used to do. I used to be a liaison officer. Most of the time, the Department of Defense will send me to the British Army, the American Army as a liaison officer, and I did it for many years. So I will deal with Department of Defense at that level. And when you see the colonel coming alone to sit with the cabinet secretary, and there's no senior military officer next to her, speaks volumes of how that message is being taken within the uniformed personnel. Because apart from the colonel who was coming to be shown that he's still alive, we expected somebody from the senior leadership of KDF
to be alongside,
to be sitting with the cabinet secretary, so that they give credibility to what the cabinet secretary is saying. We saw nobody. So that alone should also speak to you volumes. And I can tell you the competent, because when I was there, I used to be dealing with senior officers in Department of Defense, because this was a diplomatic assignment. And I know how they react and how they speak. So to me, I don't want to dispute what he's saying, but I think there's more that needs to be said out of these documents instead of us dismissing them the way they are.
Maybe we need to come to Captain Wanderi just to also clarify for us, because yes, we have this particular document.
Yes.
And you are a forensic auditor, right?
Yes.
So have you subjected this particular document to, forensic audit? Or have you just taken it on a face value and you say, yeah, you can see there maybe typos, the fonts are not really matching. This is now, what sort of interrogation did you subject this particular document to?
Allow me to explain this. I'm not talking about forensic document examination. I am talking about basic forensic audit of documents, because documents, even in law, are the best forms of evidence. Because as I said, a document cannot be confused. It cannot be persuaded. It cannot forget. It speaks for itself, the way it is presented. So on the face of it, I have looked at these documents, all of them, from the first one to the last one. And clearly you can tell they are things that are totally wrong. Because you don't make certain mistakes when even as my colleague Captain Werunga here is saying, in service writing, you do not have flip-flops. That is inexcusable. And for that reason, you cannot have letters emanating from the same office with different references. That is impossible. Not in the defense forces. For the years I was there, I even remember up to this day the way my letters would be referenced from my office. Clearly. Because if I saw a different type of letter, that cannot be mine. Secondly,
okay,
of all these documents, only one single document, the one that has reference DHQ, has a stamp, as an official stamp. So the others is clearly, if they were addressed to anybody, it means then they were neither received, nor were they ever sent, were they ever acknowledged by those people. That would be the other thing. Because only one of those documents, these are official documents. If they were official documents as they are purported to be, then you would expect that. And I want to repeat here, I haven't, yes, I saw a statement, tweets, people saying that Colonel Owuoth has confirmed these documents. I'm here to see anything on record. Right. I also know that the military does not confirm things that way. Okay. They don't confirm orally. Either they have something in writing.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Something in writing, but also there were statements that say, yeah, some of the, some of the objects of this particular letter, they have been quoted out of context. So did someone just pick this out of the air and actually put it, into proper context, so to speak?
Let me speak about this. Yeah. We've been here, we have spoken here in the past. Operation Dumisha Utulivu was not a secret. Before General Kaiseri died, he was in Ebakasi, where he had invited the media to speak about this thing. And my suspicion is that somebody picked documents relating to an exercise that was open to the public, then changed them to conform to a certain narrative. And this is why you can see the discrepancies I'm pointing out. I can point out so many discrepancies in those documents.
All right, I have the documents, I think, right now. I think, yes. Maybe you can take us through, then we hear from Chair Macharia briefly before we take a short break. Right, the documents?
Yes, I had already mentioned about page 1.
Page 1,
yes.
We have page 1, yes.
Yes, you look at, again on page 1, you look at the date there, July. Look at the font. That font is clearly, looking very clearly that is either a stamp or a superimposed date.
Okay.
Very clearly.
All right.
You see, if you look at I had already mentioned that when you are referencing from the same office, there will be, if you start referencing there Kenya Army, KR,
yes,
Ops, then you would expect every document relating to that subject to flow in the same way.
Okay.
That is the way they flow, and that is why the last page is missing. Then I want you to go to
the last page being a page, yes, which page?
There's a page called page 9.
Page 9.
Okay. Where it is, there is a document there known as restricted, which is talking about contact persons.
Restricted. This is page, is that it? If we just put it so that we can see it, also Captain can see it. That is secrets?
No, that is restricted.
Restricted.
Okay. Yes, it's
page 7, okay, and
there's one clearly marked restricted. Okay.
I'm trying to get it.
Yes, just go up slightly.
Up slightly or down?
Up, up, up.
All right.
Now, one thing.
Jackie, if you may just put it so that he can see, so that he can tell me which it is actually. All right.
Let's go up.
Up.
Yes.
This is it. Okay. Secret. No, that one.
Not that one.
That one.
Secret. Not that one.
Not that one.
It's up. It's up. That's the last page.
That's the last page. So yes. I go. Then it's not page 9.
Yes. It's up. Up. Just go up. There. Just
okay.
Below.
This is it.
Just below.
Below it.
Yeah. Yeah. You see there. It's
restricted.
Restricted.
Yes.
Let me tell you this: that in the defense forces, if the document is either classified confidential, secret, or restricted, the same thread flows in every of those documents. You cannot have one document on the same operational issue. One saying confidential, another one saying secret, another one restricted. That does not happen. And I'm talking as a person who spent years at the headquarters of a service doing service writing. These things don't happen. It doesn't happen that way.
All right, let's hear from Chair Macharia Njeru. Looking at this particular event, of course, we'll speak about also the military being involved in this general election, and we've seen also the cabinet secretary starkly denying that they will be involved. Of course, this will be for security reasons to make sure that we have a peaceful election. Your action, please.
Now, I can't purport to speak on to the documents that have been flying around, but I can exercise a legal mind or a reasonable mind to understand what exactly is it that seems to be contradicting each other.
Yes.
And I think, in my own mind, we are confusing a fairly straightforward matter. From what I was seeing in the TV, I don't have a personal knowledge of the issues at stake, and from the document that I've seen flying around, and from what I've also been seeing, in the media, I think one can safely discern what is at issue. And I don't think, in my view, that there's any contradiction between the Colonel and the Cabinet Secretary. And again, I'm not speaking for either of them. What seems to be the issue here is that there's the operational issue, a genuine operation within the KDF with its own documents that are business as usual documents. And probably that's what the Colonel was referring to, that there's nothing extraordinary about this specific document, the genuine one, regarding preparedness for certain activities, which document seems to have been picked by somebody and then changed. There seems to be alterations, because from what I was seeing now in the media, there seems to be a document that is talking about military maybe cutting off water in certain areas, doing certain things, which obviously the military cannot do. I mean, we have a professional military, and there's absolutely no way they can do such things. And I think what the Cabinet Secretary is saying is that the documents she's referring to as being forgeries are the ones that seems to have been altered. And the Colonel seems, at that time when he was confirming and saying the documents are authentic, for him, I believe he was referring to the genuine operational documents, referring to preparation for certain activities that are within their mandate. Now, my view is that, and I'm not again, blaming anyone in the media. I think what the media has not done in the reporting is to clarify the two scenarios. Because you see, I think when reporting is happening, there should be at least some basic research where you're able to pick the two documents so that as you are communicating, it is clear that one is referring to this document, the other one is referring to this other document. I would genuinely believe that the two of them are referring to two different documents. The Cabinet Secretary is saying this is a forgery, and the ones that she's referring to, I believe, are genuinely forgeries. And the canon was referring to the documents that are authentic, were real documents probably. Again, I do not want to say that with authority, but which he is saying are being quoted out of context. So I think that's where we need to, to go a little bit further to clarify the two situations.
Right. Let's continue pace with this conversation. And I think before we took a short break, we were to come to you, Dr. Mustafa. Your reactions on these particular documents and after other issues that we'll be discussing this morning, especially the involvement of KDF in the general election.
Yeah, Debarl, beyond the forensics of the documents that have been circulating on social media and all over, let us look at the consequences of sucking in an institution such as KDF into our juvenile politics. Now, the challenge here is that we will end up tribalizing the Kenya Defence Forces. Mm-hmm. And if then that is the case, then we will have very serious repercussions should these elections be contested. We only need to look at Ivory Coast and what happened when that election was contested. And even before that, the military was split into two, and it was then very difficult to resolve that particular conflict. Mm-hmm. 2007 conflict that we had in this country, we were very lucky that the Kenya Defence Forces was not sucked into that particular conflict. And if indeed, or if as some people wanted to suck in KDF into that particular conflict, I think Kenya would have been on fire until today. We would not have been able to put out that fire. Mm-hmm. And it's advised, it's very important that any political leader, any political party that are trying to, or individuals that are trying to suck in KDF into this political mess of a campaign should think twice before doing that. KDF has other pressures in Somalia, in many other places, and that if then it is subjected to the kind of political pressure that that there seems to be a very deliberate attempt to do that. It is going to cause problems. We do have a very professional force, relatively professional. It's one of the most powerful in Africa, and political leaders should not really be going in that direction. We should not expect that General Mwadhebe, or rather political leaders should not think that they can bring in a person like the generals that we have, who are highly trained, educated to the level of our some of our misguided political actors, to come and debate with them. This is something that has got to be, well, let the military come out very clearly and address the issue of the papers that are put out there. It's very important. There seems to be some issues with the grammar and the headers there, and it's very important that that is clarified. Politically speaking, in conflict situations such as this kind of charged political situation, Debarl, it is suicidal to involve military or to suck in KDF into this kind of political contests.
All right. Professor Noah Midamba.
Debarl, I listened to my colleagues here very carefully, from Werunga, Mustafa, Wanderi, and Macharia. And I followed this fairly closely based on my security background. It seems to me there are two things that really need to happen, and happen soon, because of the kind of political atmosphere and the environment where we are. Number one is scientifically authentication of this writing need to be done, and done as quickly as possible, because there is science available to do that. And secondly, communicating very coherently, clearly to the public as to what was the original origin of this document, what were their intended purpose. If there are two documents we are talking about, that need to be presented. But it seems to me that we have the CS speaking on one side and then the discipline forces talking on one side. I think the point that Captain Werunga raised at the other time is that the senior folks are missing out of this. And we need someone to speak with authority in regard to what was the original purpose of this whole thing. Are they really connected? Is it serious? So that we can get this debate out of the way.
All right. Very briefly, let's hear from Captain Werunga as we wind up on this, because also we have Zara Wairimu. She's saying, what if the errors were deliberate? Remember, the correspondence was for internal and restricted circulation. What is actually went out there and it's been tampered so that it is actually appearing as fake? How can we credibly also authenticate that, Captain?
I think this is my suggestion, Debarl. These are very crucial documents, if they are. And I think what we are saying here, to me, I believe is speculation. One, it might not be very possible for the military top brass to address the nation on these documents. They'll wish to see these things away, whether they are forgeries or whether they've been tampered with. And therefore, my suggestion will be, unfortunately, we might have to live with what they are saying, and hopefully anticipate that all of us have learned lessons through this for the better of this country. Because I can tell you honestly that there's so much that is not looking good. There's so much that I think we are saying on this table, and Professor, you've come out very clearly that if we have to put this thing to a stop, then we shall need to hear the top brass, or the spokesperson, Owuoth, must be given express authority to address this issue. Because when he speaks on behalf of CDF. And therefore, if it does not happen that way, then we shall continue to have speculations on this document, because we cannot authoritatively, I think, on this table, speak about these documents if we don't have the authority and the authenticity that, because these are all photocopy documents. So even if my colleague here speaks about document examination, I know my small reading in document examination, you can be very authoritative if they are original documents. We've seen a lot of tampering on those documents. So I think my suggestion is, and with due respect to my colleagues on this table, we move to another subject. Yes. So that we...
All right. Yeah. Just before...
I think it's important to also clarify that it is true this is a matter in court.
Yeah.
I think one of the sides on the political divide has gone to court seeking to stop military from participating in any of the operations relating to elections, and that is a matter that is being argued in court as we speak. So I think that's also what the Khan was referring to, that he doesn't want to speak to a matter that is in court. So I also do not think that it will be possible for any other party, because if a matter is in court, then whatever side that has allegation against the other in respect to documents, that would be a matter for determination also by the court.
Right.
And that would also be able to clarify.
Right. Thank you. And maybe just to also wind up with Zara Wairimu, also she's raising this. She's saying a serious document examiner worth his salt cannot authoritatively pronounce himself on mere photocopies of documents. Maybe you want also to react on that as we close. Captain Wanderi, on this.
Yes, I have pointed out discrepancies. Yes, and that is the work of what fraud examiners do. When you present a document, you let them talk, what you have. And yes, we are talking about what is in circulation. We are not talking about what the Kenya Defence Forces hold as their documents. We are simply talking about what is in circulation. And what is in circulation, I have pointed out errors, I have pointed out mistakes, I have pointed out discrepancies and mismatch in terms of referencing and dates. That is all I have done. Yes.
Thank you.